Hey everybody, so here we are on part 2 of the month of June and what sold for us on our online shops. And hello Depop. I was increasing my listing and my cross-posting over to Depop. If you remember, I had mentioned that Vendoo and Depop had a collaboration in the month of June. And so anything that you cross-posted from or listed into Depop through Vendoo for that month, if it sold in the same month, there was no seller fees. Then Depop was waiving the selling fees. So especially at the beginning of the month, I did increase the number of listings that I was cross-posting over there. And I actually had quite an increase in sales. I mean, for me, for Depop. I mean, we're not like dumping all the other platforms just to sell on Depop, but it just goes to show, like, putting a little bit extra effort, because Vendoo makes it so easy just to cross post into there. And I had to get over my own brain about what would sell on Depop. I had in my head that it's only Y2K, it's only vintage weirdness, that I could list over there. But as you can see, the first sale here, this actually sold for $45 with an offer, but it was a Lululemon's men's textured kind of pullover hoodie type thing. And it seemed like it was like a fairly desirable item. And it would sell on Posh, it would sell on eBay, but it actually sold on Depop first. I took the $45 offer, and it was like a current item. It's not vintage or anything like that. So I was happy, and it sold within like a day or two of me listing it. So that was awesome. The other thing I sold, a couple other things I sold on Depop that month was this belt. This belt also went with an offer for $31.20. I had picked this up basically because of the belt buckle at the thrift store. And, to me, it looked very Y2K. It looked very, I don't know, 90s grunge or something like that. But it actually was an equestrian clothing company brand. And it's Pikeur, Pikeur, and made in Germany. But it still just had a look that would appeal to, I think, a lot of different people. So $31.20 for that. Sold these two glasses over here. These were super popular on Depop. If you don't know, this celestial pattern by Libby is very sought after, because it's again, it's a Y2K 90s kind of thing. I don't know, did they use it like the mugs on Friends or I don't know. I think it has some connection to a TV show. If you know, leave me a comment down below. So certain other pieces in that pattern by Libby, like these taller glasses didn't seem to be as sought after. Like the mugs are like probably like $40 for like one mug. But I had these two, and I sold them for $29.30. And on Depop, I use Depop labels, so they pay shipping on top of it. But sometimes I send offers, sometimes I just entertain offers, things like that. This was a fossil belt. This one actually sold really once I got it, and then cross-posted. It sold for $21.25. Next up, let me see if we're going to be working today. Come on. Okay, this Hawaiian shirt, I picked it up at an estate sale not that long ago. It sold for $23 is the offer that I took. Just a very basic vintage sleeveless Hawaiian style dress. And again, it sold pretty quickly once it got cross-posted over to Depop for $23. Another item that went pretty quickly, I had it on eBay and Poshmark, and then probably a few days later did it on Depop. The brand is the Sack, and I had picked it up because of the patchwork look. I know that boho patchwork, leather patchwork is kind of popular right now. So I had picked it up because of that style, and it sold for $20.40 on Depop once I moved it over. So I'm just, Vendoo just makes it so easy to do that. If you want to try out Vendoo, I promise not to make this like a Vendoo commercial, but you know, today's listings are all about things we've cross-posted mostly, except for Ruby Lane and my pattern shop where I just list directly. But the Poshmark sales, the Depop, some of the Etsy sales, those are because we cross-post. And as you can see at the top of the screen, we have quite a few sales in June that were not on eBay. So we're going to continue to cross-post. And then we had one more sale on Depop in June, and that was a hat. And it looks like I didn't open it up. But it was just this random Montana, oh no, Tillicum. Sorry, I was thinking this was a Montana hat. But it was a restaurant and saloon in Oregon. So that sold just for $12. So let's pop over to Poshmark. Again, things sell on Poshmark more than just clothing. This is something that back in the day would have sold on Etsy like so fast. It's so super slow right now on Etsy for us. So we're just cross-posting. You know, it's not like it's our favorite place to post, but mid-century can sell there. You'll see some sales later on. But we've just started doing eBay, Etsy, Poshmark, even for some of this mid-century stuff. Ruby Lane, I do throw some mid-century stuff on there here and there. It can sell on there. It's just a little bit of a different crowd, and I do think Poshmark, eBay, Etsy people will find it faster than they would on Ruby Lane. But that's not to say no mid-century stuff would sell over there. This was a nice sale. It's a dress topper. I picked it up at the thrift store. I paid up a little bit. I want to say I paid like $15 or something like that, but it was new with tags. The brand was Alishan. I don't think it's a name you need to remember. I picked it up because it was cashmere, and I looked it up. Cashmere dress topper, camel was kind of a popular color. It did not sell super quickly, and it actually didn't even sell until we got to summer. But it sold for $70, so I would definitely pick that one up again. Not that I think I'm going to come across a bunch of them. I sold a Brighton belt for $25 over here. Not super fast, but it was, it was the buckle was a little fancier than normal, so I'm happy with $25. Here's another one of those cool shirts I talked about in the last video. This might actually have been the one I was referencing when I said I had another one. So this one did take longer to sell, but it did sell in June. It was just a slightly different style. Sold for about the same as the other one, but took a lot longer to sell. This was an unbranded belt that sold for $25 because it's a Western style. So it's got that Western style buckle. It's not like it's sterling or anything like that, but just a braided blue leather. So a little bit different, but that Western style is really popular right now. So $25 for that one. Now here's my little story for Poshmark. I showed you some of the sales that didn't go quite right. So I had picked up on one of our road trips, I picked up this Lily Pulitzer dress, and I looked it up and I was like, oh my goodness, it's popular and it sells for pretty good money. Well, then I got home and I realized, and it was in the middle of nowhere, Montana, and she hardly charged us anything for it. When I got home and as I looked at it, I realized that someone had, because it's a swingy dress, right? So it's got a lot of material. And someone must not have liked that. So they took it in, but basically they just folded in the side and then just did a really rudimentary stitch on the inside. They went right over the pockets and everything. And I thought, okay, well, I can't list it like that. I'm just going to pick the seams. Now, I was so proud of myself because I usually delegate this stuff to Mr. Pishposh because he has the patience and the detail orientedness to do it. But I said, no, I'm going to do it. So I just picked the seam. It took a while. I think I did some of it while I was watching TV or something. And I got it all unpicked. the pattern is so busy that it, you know, it had a lining underneath. Like you could see the stitching more in the lining, but that part doesn't show. But you couldn't really tell anything. But I disclosed it all. The person who bought it, I think she asked, like, what do you mean by like the stitching? So I tried to explain it better and everything. And she's like, okay, well, I don't know, but I think the person might have also shortened it. But I missed that part. So I was so concentrated on getting these side seams fixed that I missed that part about the hem. So this is where the beauty of Poshmark is the woman like opened a case, like she was like, oh, it's all this and uneven and the blah, 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 whatever. I didn't notice anything like that. And she was just like, it's no good, blah, blah. So I wrote into Poshmark and I said, you know, the buyer I'm perfectly willing to accept a return on that, because I thought, well, maybe I can get it back and like unstitch it or whatever. Well, Poshmark handles returns. They're the ones who handle the returns. So Poshmark just said, I think they gave the lady her money back. They let me keep my money and it's all a done deal. So I don't have to do anything more with it, but I still got paid, even though it was technically my fault. But I showed I was willing to do it. I think if the woman did this often, or if I had a lot of returns often, then they would take that into account. But I hardly ever have returns on Poshmark, so, or cases or anything like that. So that's the beauty of Posh. Next up was a vintage cardigan by Arnold Palmer. It was, well, not by him, but his name is on it. Robert Bruce, I think, is the sweater company. And, you know, it's a golf sweater. So it's 100% virgin wool and kind of like that grandpa core look that the kids are all liking these days. So a vintage wool cardigan sold in the summer for $26. This I thought was more interesting than it turned out to be. It was a vintage champion, right? So like, isn't that fun? Like, look at that old label. And it was the Clemson Tigers, and it was a windbreaker for a coach to wear. And I could have sworn when I picked it up at the thrift store, it still had like a little price tag like pinned to it or something. I think by the time we went to go list it, like that was gone. Anyway, I had it listed for a while, and finally I just took this $20 offer on Poshmark. Next up is a Walkman. We got this at the same sale that Mr. Pish Posh found, the one that sold for $900. He picked up this one that same day. We knew it wasn't going to be worth as much. It's just like a plastic body, but it had its headphones and such. And we sold it on Poshmark for $40. Then this jacket, I got some help from some of you on keywords on this one. It was a quilted embroidered open jacket, and it was signed by the artist, by the woman who made it. You know, nobody famous, but just very interesting looking piece. Took a few months, but it sold for $35 on Posh. Oh, I don't know why I have that on there twice. Sorry about that. Then this hat sold for $20. It's Osprey backpacks. Just, I don't know, nice looking colors and stuff like that on there. Another hat, this one by Cool. This one's a visor, actually. And that one I remember selling fairly quickly, like a day or two, for $25. And our hats, you know, most of our hats these days are coming from our clearance center bins type place, because they're just such a good deal there. And it's hard for us to pay $2 for a hat anymore at Goodwill unless it's really going to be worth something good. Okay, this little vintage clock for $30, Westclock's Baby Ben. You know, it was cute looking. It's not anything super special. I like them when they're like a different color, not just like the beige or whatever, but it still sold for $30, so that was nice. This came from that little honey hole estate sale that I have told you in the last video has dried up a little bit. It is, I think at first I only had this on Posh, and then I think maybe I also cross-posted it to eBay as well, and I had it for a much higher price. So it's Bottega Veneta. It is a high-end brand, and this was kind of an unusual piece. It was vintage. It's a duffel bag. It's large, but the finish on it is kind of like that patent leather or vinyl. And so it had marks. It had, stuff like that you can't get out of the that vinyl. So I had it priced kind of high just because it was a hard to find piece. But finally got a $65 offer. I was like, yeah, for sure. I think I paid like $3 or something like that. Because I don't think they had really looked inside at the brand or anything. A couple of glasses Mr. Pish Posh picked up probably at our clearance center. He put them together. They sold for $20 on Posh. I don't remember if it was me or Mr. Pish Posh who picked this up. Again, I'm sure it came from the clearance center. It's just, we picked it up because it was vintage. Just such a nice looking plaid, gray plaid. And it took a little while, but sold for $49. Now these sold really fast. I picked them up at a thrift store. It was a thrift store where they kind of sometimes price things once you get up to the counter. So I think she charged me $4 for these. And maybe 3 and then 1. That might have been how it worked out because I got another package of a single t-shirt. So they might have done like $1 a piece kind of thing. So say $3. Sold really fast for $25. Now, these were from the 70s and new old stock. So I always check underwear, vintage t-shirts, things like that. There's a market, believe it or not. And then Orvis, not my favorite brand. We ended up lotting these two up because they were identical, just different colors. Mr. Pish Posh got creative with his little collage going on here. But somebody paid $45 to get 2 nice Orvis tech shirts. I mean, Orvis is good. It's just for resale for me. I see it all the time in the thrifts, but not everything sells super great. This was listed a while. It took a while and finally sold for $23. It's a vintage lamb's wool vest made in Ireland. The brand is Cork and Kerry Traders. And I had just picked it up based on the whole academia, dark academia aesthetic going on, collegiate, that kind of thing. But it took a while for someone to find it. And it sold for $23. And same thing, I just picked up this seersucker. People like seersucker, okay? But I paid like $1 at the Dollar Day at the thrift store. The brand was just like personal or something like that. It was just vintage. I would have loved if it had fit me, but it didn't. And I sold it for $25. And it's just based on style, not brand or anything. So I remember telling you about this brand. I sold a couple boys swim trunks, MC2, St. Bart. Anyway, I saw these ones with Mickey. They did have like a tiny bit of damage on the inside, but the Mickey Mouse ones seemed kind of rare. So we ended up selling those for $27. This Vivitar point and shoot camera, $22. I'm pretty sure that just came from that big lot of camera stuff that Mr. Pish Posh found. Juicy Couture, this came from our bins clearance center. Juicy Couture, big straw hat, sold for $15. It had cherries on the fabric that went around it. Big floppy hat. This is that... I'm not even going to say it out loud, but the Polish pottery, and it was just a salt shaker. There was just one, and so I don't remember where we picked it up, but we sold it for $18 over here on Posh. Here's a good brand to keep it. Oh, wrong way. Oh, I think I deleted it. We're going to have to go find it because it's one that you need to know. Okay, this is Yeti. They call it a Colster. It's something to put your drink in, and like an insulated, like a koozie, but we're not going to say koozie because that is proprietary. Anyway, they call it a Colster. that you can put your beer bottle in and then hold on to it and keep it insulated. We sold that for $15. We took a low offer on that one. We've sold them before in the like for $20, $25. I don't know. This was an older style or something like that. Oh, here we go. Maybe this is what maybe I don't know. So Birdwell Beach Breeches. This is something I was in the thrift store and came across these on the rack as they were pulling out some new clothes. I was kind of excited about that because I'd heard about this brand but had never found it before. So Birdwell, here's on the back of the shorts, has this little patch, okay? So these actually ended up being women's. I think the men's will sell even better, but it has some patches on the front. But anyway, like board shorts, Birdwell Beach Breeches can be like, men's shorts can be like $40, $50, even pre-owned. So these sold for $34, and I think I paid like $2.50 because it was half off day. Now Vocal, it was a while back. I had found this like duster cardigan type thing by Vocal, and I bought it purely based on how it looked and the cheap price. And so I kind of filed that name away because one of you in the comments mentioned that you love to, I think, wear Vocal, right? And so I realized it's kind of this Western kind of, brand that I'll probably come across. So I just came across this shirt, very basic studded shirt. Only sold for $16, but it sold in a couple days. So that has put that name in my little Rolodex, reselling Rolodex to keep an eye out for, especially here in Montana. And we're moving along. Okay, $50 for this Kodak Junior camera. So look, nice vintage looking thing. Sold for $50 on Poshmark. Barefoot Dreams. When I found this, it was the first time I had ever found Barefoot Dreams. It was one of those Bolo brands that just is so, like every reseller YouTuber has been talking about Barefoot Dreams for a really long time, and I never found it. So I finally found it, and I was like, okay, what's the deal? Are these even still selling? I'm not even sure. And so the consensus on Instagram was that, yeah, it still sells, but it probably will sell for a little bit less than it used to. So anyway, I listed it, sold it for $34. It's super soft. It was super nice. Another hat. This one just a hooey hat. $15. A necklace for $20. I'm going to try to pick up the pace a little bit because I hope you guys are working because this is going on for a little while. This next one is a necklace I picked up, I think, online from a jewelry seller, just another kind of in-between seller. And in other words, like she was a reseller and she sells hers at fairly low prices. And then, it wasn't like a thrift store. So anyway, that's all I'm trying to say. So $20 for this necklace by Larissa Loden. Okie doke. So then Nambe, whatever. It's generally, these sell pretty well. They're a silver alloy, I guess, whatever they're made of. These pieces usually do pretty good. So I don't know if we had some of them listed separately, like the salt and pepper, and they weren't moving. And I think, I don't know, Mr. Pish Posh was in a mode to kind of just get things moving. And so I think he lotted them up. And maybe we had found the little dish and it wasn't worth doing alone or something like that. So anywho, he put these together and they sold on Posh for $25. Another hat for $19, Yeti, of the Yeti cooler fame. Genteel, I'll show you the label. So I found 2 pieces of Genteel. I sold the other piece a couple weeks ago. And I wasn't, they were kind of like just an experiment because I had never heard of the brand before. It's a golf performance seems like kind of brand. And both pieces sold, within a few months. So it wasn't like things went super quickly. But I guess if something was, a lower, if I could thrift it for a lower price, that I might do that again. Anyway. Yeah, I better get a move on. On clouds. When Mr. Pishposh was doing his big shoe cleanup, this was just in our profit pile waiting to get listed because the white parts needed cleaning up a little bit. And look what a good job he did. And they sold within a day or so for $72. My Padaloha shirt that I showed in one of my yard sale videos, paid $4 for that, and it sold for $40. Outer Known, this is another brand that I had heard about from other resellers but had never found myself. So I found this at Goodwill, and it sold for $33 on Posh. And just some quick North Face shorts, women's shorts for $18. Nothing super special. They took a few months to sell. Let's pop over to Ruby Lane. I sold this Georg Jensen collar bar. If I had gotten this not this past year at that jewelry sale that I like to go to, but I think the year before I had bought a box of like men's jewelry from them for like $15, and so I finally sold this Georg Jensen collar bar for $83. And I think it was going to a shipper to go overseas. This was kind of fun. This is a button that's over 2 inches wide. It's just an embossed leather button. And I think somebody just made it, but I just thought it was interesting enough to be like a focal button for somebody. And that sold for $22. These gold-filled earrings sold really quickly for $17. The brand was Bigny, S-O-B, Bigny. They were just gold-filled, but they had that cool snake chain look, but they were screw back as well, not clip. So I thought they would take a little while, but a repeat buyer picked them up for $17. Then these earrings sold for $30. They are sterling silver, and as you can see, they're stirrups with the spinning spurs. The spurs actually do move, so articulated, or whatever you want to call it. Here's my Bakelite and beaded purse that I shared in a video, and that sold for $90. So I was happy about that. Like I said, I had paid up a little bit for it, but I was happy to move that for $90. And I got to own it for a little while. This is just a tiny little fabric square hanky, something like that, featuring Daffy Duck at the Olympics, and I sold that for $10. It was like smaller than a hanky, so I don't know what it was. I just sold this for $9. It was unsigned. It was cute, enamel with some rhinestones in it, but no known maker or anything like that. I think I had it for $10, and then repeat buyers get an automatic like 10% discount, is the way I have things set up. I sold these 4 round bowl soup spoons by Lion stainless. The pattern is called Queen's Fancy, and Lion, Lyon. It's a sub brand of International stainless flatware. But $45, I'll take that. This, I don't even know what happened. Why I even listed this silly little thing in for like $7. I'm like, I don't know what I was thinking. But it was a while ago, and look how heavily crazed it was, but super cute. I usually do pick up these bunnies where you can pull the cotton ball dispenser type thing out of their little back end. And somebody wanted it still. I always pick up little vintage leather coin purses. Change purses is I think what I was trying to say. It was a nice little pink leather. It had little fleur-de-lis, just like that brooch I just sold. Anyway, it was clean, just sold it for $16. They're usually just not much at estate sales or yard sales or whatever. This is an older little dish. Trying to remember. It's been listed a while, and I can't, I just thrifted it. It just looked old. It's transferware. It's from the aesthetic movement, 1882. It's just a nut dish. It's just this little tiny, it could be like a soap dish or something like that. But Ruby Lane was having a spotlight sale where porcelain, anything ceramic or glass could be on sale for 25%. So I put a handful of things on sale and sold that for $35. Sold this necklace, very unusual, unsigned, unbranded, but just this heavy kind of chain with these little glass cubes kind of stationed throughout it, and sold that for $20. And finally, this book about Zuni jewelry sold for $15. Let's pop over to Etsy and the one Mr. Pish Posh handles, and we sold another wood grain alarm clock. They sell, what can I say, $35. Then let's see. Okay, let's keep going, software. A mug. I picked this up at our clearance center not that long ago. Oberlin College. I paid pennies for it. It sold for $35 within a couple days of getting listed. Some Danish modern, like I said, some mid-century still selling on Etsy. eBay's kind of overrun with some of these, but these sold for $25 over on Etsy. They're Stelton, which is a nice mid-century stainless brand, made in Denmark, little taper or just candle holder type things. I'm trying to remember to say this stuff out loud in case you guys are working and not like glued to the screen. This is another little clock, a West Clocks Dialite alarm clock. Super cute, $26.99 for that one. Dialite means that the face lights up in the dark, so we try to demonstrate that. Then next up was this enameled covered copper seashell. It was really big, scallop shaped. I picked this up. I remember picking it up and showing Mr. Should I get this? Because it was big and heavy, and I wasn't sure it still had the appeal that these pieces have in the past. Sometimes if you can find a signature on the back, they'll do much better. But it finally sold for $45. I was happy about that. Another mug sold for $28.99. We've talked about before these no spill mugs. You always pick up. I think I've sold something similar to this before, and it's, got the fish around. It's like for golfers, right? Not golfers. Fishermen. I have golfing on the brain still. And then one of the kits that I had picked up in that video, we've talked about the kits, $30 sold over here on Etsy. And then I sold this pattern for $12, just a 90s. I'm always selling those 90s patterns. Another one for $10, very basic shell top type pattern for $10. A McCall's pattern, again, I don't know. This one was 90s. It's like a sundress, summer type dress. Sold for $12. Another simplicity pattern. This one's very Y2K looking. I think it even was from like 2000, from the year 2000. But that look is very popular right now. So the patterns for those styles are also popular. Those sold for $12. That sold for $12. Sold a costume pattern for $24. And then there was kind of a little costume run. This one sold for $26. These men's colonial costumes. And this one also. And there was a message to hopefully that we could ship it quickly because it was for a theater production. And then another 90s dress pattern sold for $15. This one by McCall's, a shirt dress. And then I think the last one was a 70s pattern for $12, also by McCall's. Anyway, okay, so that was it. That was my all the other platforms, how they did the whole month of June. I'm finally caught up. From now on, you can expect the What Sold videos, hopefully to stay on schedule and come out weekly like you're used to. So I won't do these big mega videos anymore. Hopefully not. Anyway, or just have a little bit more time to talk about some of the things that sold. So, okay, I hope you guys are doing great. Feel free to leave me another comment about your sales and how do you feel about cross-posting? Are you ready to do it? Have you done it before? Do you cross-post? Do you find it beneficial to do so? So feel free to let me know, and I will talk to you guys sometime soon.